Hello everybody, it's the War Hipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus Age of Sigmar painting tutorial, and today we are painting the Shadow Queen herself. We are painting Morathi. Yes, we are painting both versions, the little one and the big one, and well, it's very exciting because this video has been a long time coming and I know a bunch of you have requested it a lot, so I hope it's worth it. So, without further ado, we're going to jump right in and we're going to start painting Morathi. Now, we're going to put her to one side for now because, well, we're going to be focusing on the snaky parts of Morathi before we finally get to doing the, Morathi bit. So she's going into the side of the desk. And, well, as I say, we're going to be jumping in and painting in the skin of the snake and the wings and all of that good stuff. So, the place to start is with the priming, which was Grey Seer, as you can see. Because we want this to be nice and cold, and well, the first colour we're going to use is a roughly 2 parts contrast medium to 1 part Guilliman Flesh mix, and we're going to be getting this all over Morathi's skin, well, snake body, and all over her wings. Just like this. Now, the contrast medium is in there to thin out the colour, of course. It's also in there to make it so that this paint goes a little bit further than it would normally. So we don't want this to be a really kind of dark, fleshy tone. We want this to kind of basically start as our pre-shade, and then we're going to work up from there, or work down from there, I should say. Now, on her body, as I say, I'm going to just do a little bit more of this whilst we ramble on. We're going to get this all over the front and the back, so all of those hard scales that you can see coming around here. And what we're also going to do, as I said, is we're going to put this all over the wings. Now, when it comes to the wings, I'll show you in just a second. Let's just finish this section so we don't have any weird drying lines. Once that's done, there we go. On the wing section, basically what we want to do is we want to take it up to where her kind of, where elf body begins. So we want to do up to there, like that. Otherwise, the rest of it is all just going to be this Guilliman Flesh mix. We're going to be doing this on the front and on the back of the wings, but just take your time, make sure you finish off your sections, and then once that's done, we'll come back. So with that done, you should now have a Morathi that looks somewhat like this, which is pretty cool, but obviously nowhere near finished. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some Magos Purple, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the softer areas of the skin. So for example, on the snake, it's the inner part of the body, but not the scales. And on the wings, it's the membranes, not the spines. And the muscle. We are going to do the muscle as well. So we're just going to take this Magos Purple, and we're just going to start painting it all over the top. Like this. Now it can sometimes help to thin it down a little bit. So don't worry if this is something that you choose to do. It can just help the paint go a little bit further. We essentially just want to get this all over like this to a reasonably smooth scale. Magos Purple is quite a lovely paint to work with because it's bright, it's thin, it flows nicely, but as I say, if you wish to, you can just add 1, maybe 2 parts contrast medium, should you desire. So with that done, you should now have a Morathi that looks somewhat like this. But, as I say, we are not finished there, of course. So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on the snake body. Now, fundamentally what happens on the snake body also happens on the wings. We're going to focus on the snake body first, and then we're going to do the wings. Because, well, we need to get to the same colour, but it's just easier to do it this way. Now, the colour we're going to be making first, well, next, is a roughly 2 parts contrast medium to 1 part Volupus Pink. And basically what we want to do here with this is we want to get this all over the scales. So, for example, just around here, we want to get this all over like this. Whereas what we also want to do is across the front of the snake's body, we want to kind of get most of the sort of underside to a similar level, but we want to kind of blend it out once we get to around about where this second kind of scale is going down like this. So what we're going to do is we are just going to start coating this Volupus Pink mix all over like this, covering over where that sort of little bit of artsy to designy bit is. And we just want to get this all the way down like so. But just before we continue any further, I'm going to wash the brush, and then just with a clean brush, just where those two colours meet, we're just going to blend it up and blend it down. So basically just kind of creating that sort of slightly faded effect about halfway along. Just going to wash that brush and just do it one more time. Like that. Otherwise, we now want to get this all over the rest of it. And what we do want to do is just take it up those scales like that. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Blood Angels Red. I'm going to paint this all over the top of our scales. I'm going to pick a place to start. We're going to start down here at the tail. Just start painting this over. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Black Templar. And we're going to use this to add a sort of stripe going down the middle, but also to colour in the stinger on the tail. So we're just going to start with the stinger. Like this. And then similarly, as I said, we're going to be doing a stripe going down the middle. So basically what we want to do is just want to start trying to draw as straight as possible and as evenly as possible. Well, a stripe that comes down the middle of the tail. with the Black Templar. And we're also just going to kind of make it quite wide. Just like this. And so with that done, we've just got one more coat to put on the tail before we move on to the highlights. Well, we've got one more coat to put on the tail before we move on to the wings, and then we do all the highlights at once. But that colour we are going to make is a roughly 6 parts contrast medium to 1 part Flesh Tearers Red. And what we're doing here is we're basically, where the kind of black and the red meet, we're painting this over the top like this to create that sort of impression of it fading through into the black. But what we're also going to do with this Flesh Tearers Red is similar to what we did on the underside of the tail. Where the rune ends and where this scale begins, we're going to once again paint over the top like this. Get that Flesh Tearers Red on there and across like that. And then we're going to wash the brush, and then with the clean brush we're just going to smooth it out, just kind of feathering away at it. Like that. So it goes from that kind of Magos Purple through to the Volupus Pink through to the red. Otherwise, just want to go all the way around. Like so. What you can do as well, if you want to, is on these kind of slightly larger scales on the sides of this area, you can just add the Flesh Tearers Red, coming down like this. Then wash the brush. And then once again, just where those colours intersect, just kind of lift it off with a clean brush. Like that. So with that done, we're now going to leave that snake body alone just for a little bit, and we're now going to work on the wings. Now the colour we're going to be using is once again a thin down Volupus Pink. This one is 2 parts contrast medium to 1 part Volupus Pink. And what we're going to be doing is, firstly, over the top of this kind of arm muscle type thing, we're going to be adding this all over like so. Similarly again, over the top of the wing membrane in here, we're going to be adding it all over. And over this little bit just here. We are also going to add it all over the top of the smallest wing membrane. Like that. We are going to do the same thing that we're doing here on the back as well, should just point out. Whereas on these slightly larger ones, what we're going to do is we're going to basically take a brushful and then down the side we're going to paint it like that, just lifting off too much excess. Then we're going to wash the brush. And then with a clean brush, where those two colours meet, we're just going to start feathering it out. Like this. I think I'm just going to quickly just pick up that little bit of excess there, which we don't want. Like that. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the wing as well. Like so. So with that done, you should have some pretty awesome looking wings. However, we are not done yet. What we are going to do now is we're going to make a roughly 4 parts contrast medium to 1 part Shyish Purple mix. I'm going to be using this to add a little bit of extra shading. Now, firstly what we want to do is we want to add this Shyish Purple mix over the top of the muscles just here. And here. Like that. And we're going to do the same thing on the inside, and we're going to do the same thing across all the back muscles. As well. Like that. In addition, what we're going to do is on these smaller bits of wing, we're going to add a bit of this Shyish Purple mix coming down the inside like that, and then around the inner bit of the muscle, like so. Then we wash the brush, and then we just smooth out the transition just a little bit. And then similarly, on each of the spines, we're going to add this Shyish Purple mix coming down. And then towards the top of the inside of the wings, we're going to add this, like that. Wash the brush, and then I'm just going to smooth out the transition. With a clean brush. Like that. Giving it that impression of having that little bit of extra shadow. And then we just want to rinse and repeat that, going across all of these areas. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is going to take some Black Templar. And we're going to use this over the top of the spines of the wings. We are just going to avoid getting it over the sort of talons of the wings themselves. See these ones down here, because we want them to be that purpley colour. So with that done, it is now time to add some highlights. Now, you'll be pleased to hear that the majority of these are in fact dry brushes. And the first one that we are going to be using is Slaanesh Grey. And basically what we want to do with this, we want to very gently dry brush this over the tail, including the scales and the softer underbelly. We're just going to be building this up very, very gently, very, very slowly. We don't want to get like any kind of horrible scratches. And so with that Slaanesh Grey now built up all the way around the tail, excluding the stinger, we haven't done that. What we're now going to do is we're going to take some Pallid Witch Flesh. And we want to make sure that we've got very little of this on our brush, because once again, what we're going to do is we're going to very, very gently just run it up the underside. The soft part of the belly. And then what we're also going to do is going to very gently dry brush this across the middle of our wings. And again, you just want to very gently build this up. So just be careful. Because you want to gently kiss those wings with the brush. And don't try to rush it, just take your time. So with that done, we're very close to finishing these sections off. But what we want to do is we just want to quickly take some Daemonette Hide and add a few little highlights to our darker muscles. And so with that done, we're then just going to take a teeny tiny amount of Slaanesh Grey. I'm going to use this at the absolute sharpest points, where we've just added our Daemonette Hide. Like that. What we're also going to do is going to use this Slaanesh Grey to just add a couple of little highlights around the joins on the bones of the wing, just like that. So with that done, all that's left to do is add a little highlight of Fenrisian Grey along each of our purplish claws. So with that done, that section of Morathi is now finished. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on, and this is where we can actually bring in the High Oracle version of her as well. Now, the colour we're going to be using first is a 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium in Blood Angels Red, and this can be used on 2 different places. So firstly, on the High Oracle version, we're going to be painting this on the inside of her clothes. Got a little too much on my brush there. Now the reason we've got that contrast medium in there is because for the big lady, we're going to want to do 2 coats. And we really want to make sure that we get a nice smooth finish. For the little one, we just want to do this. Like that. Just got a little too much excess there, so I'm just going to wick that off with the brush, like so. Whereas on the big one, as I said, we are going to be doing this all over her robes as well, but this one comes up onto the chest as well. So we've got this section around here that we're going to want to do with the Blood Angels Red. Now see how you feel, because you might get away with just 1 coat, but I think it's going to take 2 of this slightly thinned down Blood Angels Red. And it's slightly thinned down, as I said, just because it really helps with the flow of the paint for the wider open areas. Again, got a little bit there. So with that done, just whilst we wait for that to dry, we've only done 1 coat at the moment, but we might do a second one on the big lady. I'll let you know in just a moment. But whilst we're waiting for the first coat to dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red. I'm going to use this over the outside of the High Oracle version of Morathi. So next up we are going to do another coat of 1-to-1 contrast medium and Blood Angels red over the top of our large Morathi. And her cloak. Dress? Is it a dress? I think it might be a dress. So with that second coat of Blood Angels red and contrast medium applied to big Morathi, what we're going to do is going to go on to little Morathi and we're going to create a roughly 6 parts contrast medium to 1 part Cygor Brown mix. We're going to use this to shade the outside of her dress. So you want this to be a really nice deep red. Now just be careful that you don't have too much on your brush when you're doing this. You really don't want to overwhelm detail. You just want to add a nice shading. Just be careful, and if you get too much on your brush, do just lift it off with a clean brush. But we're after this kind of tone right here. So with that done, don't worry about highlighting it just yet. We are going to get a bunch of the base coats done now, and then we're going to do all of the shading and all the highlighting after that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on the black details. Now there is a little bit of red splatter on these boots, but that's okay because they are going to be black. Now the first colour we're going to be using is Ultramarines Blue. I'm going to be using this over the top of all of our black details because this is going to act as our pre-shade. We just want to make sure that we get this all over areas such as the boots, the gloves, any belts and straps that you may find all around her. Just like that. In addition, on Morathi has a hierarchical version, I should say. What we're going to do is we're going to do it over the hair, but we're just going to ignore these 2 large braids. So I'm just going to, like that. It doesn't matter if we get it on the little various hooks and things. They're going to be a metallic colour. And so with that done, just before we do the black, we're going to take some Terradon Turquoise. I'm going to paint this over the top of the braids in the hair. Like so. And what we're also going to do is we're going to paint this Terradon Turquoise over the top of the snakes. So with that Ultramarines Blue applied to all of our black details, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some black Templar and we're going to paint this all over the top. So for example, on Morathi Big, just going to paint it on the inside of the cloak, just like this. It's very simple. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take a roughly 2 parts contrast medium to 1 part Guilliman Flesh mix. I'm going to paint this all over the top of her skin. And so with that skin tone applied, don't worry that it's a little bit wet, because what we're going to do now is move on to painting in all of the gold. Now there is a lot of gold, for example all of the decorative features on big Morathi, and of course the wings and the headdress and all that on the small one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour and we're just going to get cracking on all of that gold. Just like this. Now, if you need help with where to place it, do check out the box art. But there is a lot, so just take your time, make sure you get it all. And once that's done, we'll come back. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some thinned down Iron Hand Steel. I'm going to use this to paint in all of our silver. Now there's not many silver details. There is in fact mostly just the blade on the spears, the hooks in the Oracle of, well, small Morathi in her hair. And then on big Morathi, we've also got the little spikes just here that we're going to do in silver. Like so. So with that Iron Hand Steel applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Blood Angels Red. I'm going to paint this over anywhere where we've got dripping blood. So for example here on the wings. Just there like that. Whereas on the big lady, we've got this heart that she's holding. In her hand. Which is an optional build, so you might not have this. Just like that. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to add some shades to the models, and well, the place we're going to start is on all of that gold. Now the colour we're going to make is a roughly 1-to-1 contrast medium and Guilliman Flesh mix, and we're basically just going to, as per usual when we're doing this sort of thing, just start whacking this all over our gold details. Just like this. And it's quite a subtle shade, as you can see. want to get it all over. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some Gryph-Charger Grey, and we're going to use this to shade all of our silver. And with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some Dark Angel's Green. I'm going to use this to shade the bodies of the snakes, not the heads. Just want to avoid the heads for now. So with that done, it is now time to add some highlights, because our Morathi is now at what I would call a Warhipster battle ready. But of course, as I say, we're not leaving it there. We are going to be taking her to the absolute pinnacle. And well, the place we're going to be starting is with all of the red cloth. Now the colour we're going to be using for this first is Evil Sunz Scarlet. All we want to do is we're going to take some of this on our brush, and we just want to start adding some highlights to all of our edges. So with that Evil Sunz Scarlet applied to all of our red cloaks, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Fire Dragon Bright. I'm going to use this, I should just keep her in the shot for a second. We're going to use this to highlight Morathi Big's entire cloak. We're also going to be using it to highlight the inside of our small Morathi, High Oracle version. Not the outside of her cloak, because hers is that darker red, and then Fire Dragon Bright will be too stark a highlight. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking that Fire Dragon Bright, and we're just going to be using this to pick out the sharpest and most light catching points on Morathi's cloaks. So for example, on this lady just here, I'm going to add just a little bit of this coming down here. Like so. And around here as well. Same on the other side. That little bit just there. Like that. Similarly, I've got a few little other areas to do on the back as well, but similarly on the smaller one, I'm just going to add a little bit of it to the sharpest points, like this, on the interior robe. So with that Fire Dragon Bright now applied, The bright red is now finished, but what we're going to do now is just going to very quickly take a tiny little bit of Cadian Fleshtone. I'm going to add this very similarly to the sharpest points on our darker red robe. Just like this. So with that done, the red robes of Morathi are now finished. So what we're going to do now is going to move on to all of the black details. Now, the colour we're going to be using first for this is Russ Grey. And all we want to do is just take a small amount of this on our brush and then just start picking out all of the edges. Just like this. And so with that done, we're then going to take a diddy amount of Fenrisian Grey and add this to the sharpest points, to areas such as her knuckles and her finger bones. In areas where, for example, those folds are at their sharpest in the gloves and the boots. So with that done, all of our black details are now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to all of the flesh. Now the first colour we're going to be using for this is Flayed One Flesh. And well, we are just going to be picking out the sharpest features of Morathi. So we want her to have this really kind of fair skin. Just picking out all of the details around the face, her muscles. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take a tiny amount of Gryph-Charger Grey. I'm going to use this to give her this kind of shadow that she has over the top of her eyes. Like this. You don't want very much on your brush as you do this because you want to kind of build this up. You also want to do this around the bottom of the eye as well, like that. And with that done, we want to take a tiny amount of Shyish Purple, not much at all, and we want to use this on her lips. So with that done across both the faces, what we're then going to do is going to take some black Templar and apply this over the top of her eyeballs. like so. So with that Black Templar applied, what we're then going to do is going to take a tiny amount of Screaming Skull. I'm going to add this. It's a little dot. In either corner of her eye, like so. And what we're also going to do is we're going to colour in Big Morathi's teeth. We're not doing Big Morathi's eyes with Screaming Skull. Oh no. What we can also do is use the Screaming Skull to paint in the teeth of all the snakes. So with that Screaming Skull applied to small Morathi's eyes, and all the Big Morathi's teeth, I should say, what we're then going to do is we're going to do the same thing on the eyes, but this time we're going to be using Flashgate Yellow. Just like this. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to work on the silver. And the colour we're going to use first is Iron Hand Steel. And basically what we're going to do is we're just going to relayer the flat of the blades along the top edges. So like along there. And along there. But on the underside of the spear, we're just going to edge highlight. So with that Iron Hand Steel applied, what we're then going to do is going to take some Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this to relayer our gold, just avoiding anywhere where the shade has really settled. We want this to be nice and bright. So we're just going to, along the flats, and any of the large bits of gold. For example, this headdress and her armour. This is pretty much only applicable to the large Morathi, because the smaller one's details are very small, apart from her wings on her back. Just go around like this, picking out all of these areas. And then once that's done, we'll come back. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to highlight all of our gold using a roughly 2-part Stormhost Silver to 1-part Retributor Armour mix. And what we're going to do is just going to start picking out all of those edges. Just like this. What we're also going to do is going to pick out all of the gems as well. And so with that gold all highlighted, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Stormhost Silver. I'm going to use this to highlight the sharpest parts of the silver and the gold. So we're just picking out, for example, on the spear there, whereas on the headdress, for example, just want to add a little bit of this towards the top. So with all of those metallics now finished, what we're going to do is going to just very quickly give a very gentle dry brush of Sybarite Green to all of our snake heads. And bodies. And with that done, we're then going to once again use a teeny tiny amount of Flash Kits Yellow to paint in their eyes. So with that done, what we're going to do next is we're going to take some blood for the blood god. We're going to use this on any of our dripping blood areas. Like that on the heart. I want to make sure that we get it on both sides as well. Like so. Similarly on this lady, just want to add this. So with that now done, there is just one last detail to work on, and that is all of our gems. Now the colour we're going to be using first is Akhelian Green. And all we want to do is we just want to grab a small amount of this on our brush. We just want to, over the top of where we painted our metallic, so we just want to paint this Akhelian Green over the top of all the gems. And there are a number of them. So we've got some across here, across the belt, got those around the tummy, on the head, got one on the heart, and we've got on the spear as well. And then similarly on small Morathi, we've got the one on the head and on the spear as well. And so with that Akhelian Green applied to all of those gems, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Gorse Blaster Green. I'm going to use this to highlight them by just picking out the edges. Just like this. So with that done, the last thing to do is to take a little dot of Corax White and just add that right in the middle on the sharp point of each of our gems. Just like that. And in classic war hipster fashion, there is of course one thing that I've forgotten to do, which is of course these runes here on her snake tummy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to very quickly grab some Terradon Turquoise, and we're just going to run this inside whilst gently overlapping the edge. Just like that. And so with that done, what we then want to do is we want to very carefully take some Gorse Blaster Green I'm going to use this to highlight around the edges of those runes. So with that done, both our Morathi models are now finished. So all that is left to do is the base. Now of course you can do this any way you like, or you can follow along with what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be doing sort of as close to the box art as I can. Now the colour I'm going to be making first is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of contrast medium and skeleton horde, and I'm going to be painting this all over our stone column and the stairs, just like this. So as that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Basilicanum Grey. We're going to use this to paint in any of the remaining stonework. Now, this is going to include the corpse just here, as I believe this is some poor soul, or maybe some very guilty soul, has been turned to stone and then broken in half by her tail, which is a bit awesome, because the legs of this body are just there, which we're also going to do with the Basilicanum Grey, as well as any other little rocks. And including these shield-like devices. And so with that done, we're then going to take some Gryph-Charger Grey. I'm going to paint this over the top of all of our loose skulls. So we've got some here at the front. Like that. On there. One in there. There's a whole bunch. And with that done, we're going to take some Aggaros Dunes. I'm going to use this to paint in all of the soil. And so with that done, we're then going to take some lead belcher. I'm going to use this to paint in the kind of, well, what remains of a metal balustrade. And with that done, we're then going to take some Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this to paint in the trim of this brazier. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to paint in the flame in the brazier just there. And the colours that we're going to be using are Iyanden Yellow, Blood Angels Red, and Black Templar. I'm going to be using all three at the same time. Now the first colour we take is Iyanden Yellow, and what we want to do is we just want to liberally layer this all over our flames. Just like that. make sure we've got it from every angle. There we go. Then what we do is we wash the brush. And then we grab some Blood Angels Red. And then we're just going to add this to the tip of the flame, coming down to around about halfway. So around about there. Like that. And again, just make sure you get it over everywhere. Wash the brush. And then grab just a little bit of Black Templar. Then we're just going to add that to the tips of the flame. Like so. Then what we do is we wash the brush and then we just grab some Iyanden Yellow, and then just where the two colours are, well, all three colours are meeting, we're just going to add just a little bit of it here and there, like so, just to help those colours transition, just that little bit of extra. And you just move it around until you're happy. Like that. Reasonably happy with that. So with those flames done, it is now time to colour in this negative space all around here. Now the colour I'm going to be using is Armageddon Dust, because I want this to kind of be sort of quite a deserty base, hence the Aggaros Dunes on all the soil. Going to move it right up to where the sculpted detail is. And so with that done, we're now going to take some Aggaros Dunes. I'm going to use this to shade all of our Armageddon Dust. And once again, over the top of that soily sand. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to give the whole base a dry brush of Tyrant Skull. This is going to tie all of it together. And make it look awesome. So with that done, I've added some tufts to the base. These are the beige and mixed green tufts available from Gamer's Grass. And, well, all that's left to do is to paint in the rim of the base. Now the colour I'm going to be doing is Abaddon Black, but you of course can do any colour that you wish. I just really like a black rim on a base. And so with the base is complete, Morathi is now finished. We've got the small version here in her sort of elven form. Very, very, very cool. Very quick to do if it was just her on her own. But of course, it's not just her on her own. We have the Shadow Queen herself in her true form, which was an absolute beast of a model to paint, and really, really fun. That colour scheme I think is super effective, and well, I'm just very, very pleased with the final result. I hope you enjoyed this video and you find it useful for painting your Morathis. She is a challenge and she can be quite daunting, but I think we've managed to achieve something very, very, very effective, very close to the box art, and we've achieved it fairly simply with, of course, Contrast Plus. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you can now become a YouTube channel member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, just like these absolute bosses have done. And if you just want to shoot me a little thanks, just because you really love this video, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.